Hello coding aliens, welcome back to my YouTube channel Code with the Key. In this video, we are going to build Signal app clone, and this is the continuation in the previous build of our Signal app clone. So in the previous three build, we have already created our project, created the UI, and designed all the material things that here you guys can see. In this part, we are going to implement the Redux stuff and will create an state, a user state, and we will simply authenticate the user using Firebase authentication. So this build mainly focus on creating a state, authenticating users, and simply doing the rest of things we will see in the next part here. Okay, so for this part we are going to show you how you guys can simply create a state using Redux. So this build or this part will be important. If you guys have not watched the previous part of this Signal app clone, previous three part of this application, you guys can simply check out the link in the description, or you guys can simply click on the cards right on the right of your screen. You guys will get the link from there. Okay, so we have done with the front end. Now it's time to do the backend and the Redux stuff here. So this is the finalized version. This is the deployed version that you guys can see here. This is the deployed lively hosted on Firebase. You guys can simply give a check out there, and you guys can simply go to your browser and simply search for the Signal clone, and the link, as you guys can see here, is the link, and we will simply drop this link in the description also. From there you guys can simply add these things here. Okay, so this is the exact Signal clone that we are guys going to build here in this part, or we will simply sum up all the basic things that we have, or simply recap the previous thing that we are done here. So basically we have already done with the UI and all the rest of the things from styling all the messages and everything, as you guys can see here, and installing all each and every dependencies here. Okay, now it's time to build the state here. So let's open the code editor here. So you guys can see here we have these things, our code editor open side by side here. Now what we will do here, we will simply open a browser here, and inside of this another tab, we will simply search for firebase.google.com, because we are going to authenticate the user using the Firebase. Okay, so Firebase will provide us a way to authenticate the user using Google authentication. Okay, so when this is searching, you guys have to simply here, you guys can see here we have this Signal clone project that we have already created on the Firebase. But now I am going to simply show you how you guys can simply create a Firebase project and add this. You guys can see here we have a card just like this. Simply click on this add project card here, give the name of your project. So I'm going to simply give a name, a Signal clone Aki, just like this. And here you guys can see here we have given the name of the project here. Now click on this continue, and you guys have to simply click on the continue one more time. You guys have to simply set up the default account for the Firebase analytics. Now it will simply create your project, and it will enable all the features that you guys going to use in this build for the Firebase. So it will provide you the or it will simply provide you the feature of cloud Firestore authentication, everything that is needed in this project, or much more thing you guys can simply add by yourself in this build to make it more interesting one. So you guys can see here it is finishing up here. Now you guys can see it is finished up here. Okay, now click on this continue, and you guys will see we have a project setup here. Now it's time to simply register the application, because we are creating a web application. So that's why we are going to create or simply register the web application. This option is for the Android and this for the iOS. So I'm going to simply click on this web option here, and we will simply register a Firebase of Web App here, and you guys have to simply give a nickname of your app, or you guys can simply set up the name here. So I'm going to simply give a name, Signal App Clone, like this. If you guys have to simply host, if you want to host this application on the Firebase, you guys have to simply check this option here, click on the registered application, and now you guys have to simply click on the next without worrying or without taking anything worry from here. Okay, simply click on the next, and the next also for the last also here. So simply click on this continue to console. Got it? Fine. So here you guys can see we are back to our console now. You guys can see we have this app already registered on the Firebase. Now click on this app, and now click on this setting icon here, and we guys have to simply grab a config snippets for the Firebase, so that you guys can simply use these things here inside your project. Okay, so you guys have to simply grab the config here. So you guys can see here we have this config here. Click on this, and now you guys have to simply copy this config here. So it will enable, or it will simply configure your Firebase application, or simply configure all the everything that you guys can see here. We have the cloud Firestore storage, hosting functions, and the machine learning, and each and everything will be simply set up from there from this config. So how we are going to do this? So I'm going to simply minimize this. Okay, so I'm going to simply minimize this first of all. Okay, so you guys can see we have this config here. So it's time to simply create another file. So I'm going to simply create another file here. So here I'm going to simply create a file with the name of firebase.js, just like this. Hit the enter button, and now simply grab the snippets from there, copy this, and simply paste it down inside firebase.js. So here I will simply paste it down it. Okay, so this is the snippets here for the Firebase here. I'm going to simply remove this comment section first of all. Okay, so we have this Firebase config. So you guys can see here we have already installed, or simply we have already installed the dependency for the Firebase. If you guys have not installed the dependencies for the Firebase, then you guys have to first install the dependencies of the Firebase using npm I installed Firebase. Okay, so we have already installed the required dependencies. As you guys can see here, inside of this package.json we have this Firebase here. Okay, so these things we have installed these things in our first part. Okay, so here if you guys have not watched the first part and the second part and the rest and the third part also, you guys can simply check out the link in the description or in the cards also. Okay, so we have already installed the Firebase in dependencies here. Now it's time to simply set up the Firebase here. So how we will do this? So simply you guys can see here we have this config. So first of all you guys have to import the Firebase. So first of all I will import the Firebase from Firebase. So that this is the correct way of importing. Now we have imported the Firebase here. Okay, so now we will simply initialize our Firebase project, or simply initialize our app. So how we will do this? So I will going to simply create an object with the name of Firebase app, and here we will simply use a function firebase.initialize app. So this is the function that we are going to call here. On here inside of this we will simply pass this config object inside this as an argument here. Got it? So we have this Firebase config here. Okay, next we will simply shut up the authentication. So we will simply create an object for the auth. So const auth firebase dot auth, just like this. We'll simply create an object for the database, because we are going to simply use the cloud Firestore feature here. So that's why we will use a database here. So you guys can say we have this const db firebase app dot firestore function, like this. And the last is the provider. So we have this provider. I'm going to simply create an object for the provider. So we have this const provider, and here we will use a Google authentication. So here we have this new firebase dot auth dot google auth provider, and here. So this is the correct way of doing, or in simply initializing our Firebase features and each and everything in a correct way. Now it's time to simply export each and everything. So simply we will simply export the auth and the provider, just like this. So auth and provider. Next we will simply export db as default. So db export default db. This is the correct way of doing this. So we are done with this firebase.js here. Okay, so we have we have export the auth and provider, and now we have export the db here. Now save this. So we are done with this. Now it's time to simply create the user state. So how we will do this? So you guys can see here we have these features. Okay, so I'm going to simply make it bigger, so for more clear understanding here. So we have this feature, or inside of this feature we have this counter. So I'm going to simply grab this counter and this counter module.css, and we'll simply delete this both of these files because we are not going to use this. Okay, next we have this counter slice. So grab this counter slice and put it back there, and delete this counter folder there, unnecessary. Then grab this counter slice and put it back in the features folder. Okay, so we have this counter slice here. So we are going to simply make a user slice, or simply we will create a slice for user. So I'm going to simply rename this. Okay, for better understanding. So that's why I'm going to simply rename this and make it a user slice.js. Got it? Okay, so here instead of this counter slice, we will simply rename this as a user slice, and here we will give the name here counter. Here instead of this name as the counter, we will simply give the name as user, and here we will simply set the initial state of user to be null. Okay, just like this. Okay, next we have this reducer, or inside of this reducer we have this increment, decrement, and everything. So here I will simply, instead of this increment, we will simply have a login function here. So here for the login we have a state and we have action. Got it? So we will have this state and we will have this action, just like this. I'm going to simply wrap it inside a parenthesis here. Okay, so now you guys can see here, I'm going to simply delete this. So here we have this state dot value. Instead of this, we will simply give the state dot user, and next we will simply assign the state of the user with the actions dot payload, because we will have a bunch of information for the user when the user will be authenticated through Google authentication. So we have this action dot payload. Okay, I will console out the information in the console, so you guys will simply check the console also here. Okay, so next we have this login function, and next we will have this logout. Okay, so when the user will be log out, then we will simply set the state of the user to back to the null. Okay, so we will simply set the state to the user back to the null. Next here grab this, or simply delete this. Okay, now so we have these things here. Okay, so now next we will simply export the everything here. So I'm going to simply delete these things here. So we have this login, so we have this login, we have this logout, we have this logout. Fine. Okay, instead of this counter slice, we will have this user slice, and here instead of this, delete this also. Okay, next delete these things also. Okay, instead of this select count, we will simply make it a select user, and here we will simply user dot state dot user dot, and here instead of this value we have this user. Okay, so we have this state dot user, and next we will simply change the export here also. We'll simply give a user slice dot reducer. So we have, now you guys can see here, we have create a slice using Redux toolkit, or this is a very important concept of Redux for creating a state. Okay, you guys can see here we have already created a slice of the user slicer with a bunch of information of the user which are carried through by the action dot payload, and we have a logout functionality. When the user will be logged out, then the state will be updated with null, and now we have export all these things here. Okay, so we have these things here. Now we will going to simply save this. Okay, and next we have to simply test the application and how we will use these things inside our application. So here you guys can see here, this is the deployed version. This is the deployed version here. Okay, and this is okay, let me refresh this. Okay, there is something error, counter slice.js. Okay, we have already renamed this, so we have to simply make this thing, grab this app.js. okay, we have these things here. Okay, go back to the store.js first of all. So store.js. okay, so here instead of this counter, here we will have this user and the user reducer instead of this counter reducer. So simply we will give a user reducer, or instead of this, grab this, remove this, and instead of this counter slice we have this user slice, just like this. Now save this. Okay, now save this. You guys can see here the error should have gone here. Simply refresh this. Okay, so initially the user state will be null, so that's why we will have here we are thrown to the landing page here. Now we have to make it a conditional rendering. So how we will do this? So simply go to your app.js, and here you guys have to simply create an object for the user. So I'm going to simply create an object, a const user, and here we will use a select user and import it from the user slice here, and simply inside of the select user we will simply get the here we'll simply pass the select user, or this is the function for the select user. And now we will use useSelector. Okay, so useSelector, we will import the useSelector from the React Redux, and then we will pass this select user inside the parenthesis of useSelector. So this is the correct way of doing this. So we have this useSelector, we will simply import it from the React Redux, and now inside of this we will simply pass the select user, just like this. Got it? So now it will simply have a action.payload information here, so information of all the users here. Okay, so next here we will simply use a conditional rendering. So if there will be a user, we will use a ternary operator here. So if there will be a user, then you guys have to simply render these things. Okay, so I'm going to simply create an empty fragment here. Okay, so if there is a user, so grab this sidebar and the chat, put it back there. So if there is a user, then render this sidebar and the chat, or if there is no user, then we will simply thrown us back to the login page. So you guys have to simply create a login page here. So here go back to there, and here inside of this component, here we will simply create a login. So here we will simply create a login.js and login.css. Got it? And grab this CSS, put back in CSS directory here. Okay, so we have this login, and here we will simply create a RFCE for the snippets for the React functional export component here. So we have this login here, give a class name of login, and hello, simply pass a text hello from login. Okay, now save this. Okay, now save this, or you guys have to simply import. We first import the CSS file also. So inside of this CSS we have this login.css, just like this. Okay, now save this. Now go back to your app.js, and now you guys have to simply import the login from the source component login. Okay, now save this, go back to this is the deployed version here. Now refresh. When we will refresh this page, you guys can see here we are back to the login here. Okay, so how we are back to the login? This is because initially we have set the user to the null. So if you guys see user slice.js, here you guys can see here if initially the user is null. Okay, So you guys can see here initially the user is null, so that's why we don't have this user yet here. So that's why we are not showing the recommended sidebar or the chat or the remaining components that we have created here. So go back to your app.js, and here you guys can see here, if there is a user, then render the sidebar and the chat, else render the login component. So it means that if there will be a user, then then this component will be rendered. Okay, so when there will be no user, then this component, this remaining component, login component will render here. You guys can see here hello from login. Okay, so now if you guys can see here, this is the okay, when we will log out, then you guys can see here we have these things here. Okay, so we have an icon of signal here, and we have a button for the login here. So I'm going to simply create these both of things here, and now we will simply show you the required things here. So let's go back to the deployed version here. So we have this hello from login. So now let's go back to your login.js, and now inside of this read of this hard-coded text. Okay, so now we will simply create we have an image. So I'm going to simply give an image. Image will have a source. Image will have a source for this, and we will have an alt for the image also here. Okay, you guys can see here we have this image of this, and now we have this button, login button. I'm not going to add these things here. You guys can simply add it by yourself with your name. Okay, so here we have next we will have this button here. So I'm going to simply create a button also. So button okay, button here, and here we have this login button, login button. Got it? So we have these things here. Okay, now it's time to simply add a styling for this login. So here let's open, if you go back to the deployed version, you guys will see we have this login here. We will have this image source here. So for the image, I'm going to simply grab the image source from there. So I'm going to simply copy the address for the image, and inside of this source we will simply pass this. Okay, now save this. Go back to here. You will see there will be an icon for the signal, and we have a login also here. Fine. So now it's time to add a CSS or simply a styling here. So let's go back to your login.css. So login.css, grab this and put it at there. Okay, so we have this login.css here. Okay, so inside of this we have a login component here. Okay, so first of all we will simply add a bunch of styling for the login component. So here we have this login display, give display of grid, simply place all content to the center, and we will simply give place content to the center, and next we will simply give a height of 100 view height. Now save this. It will be centrally aligned. Okay, now you guys can see here. Okay, so we have given the height of 100 view height, and we have simply set place the content to the center. Now we will simply give align items to the center. Okay, we have given the place content to the center. So I'm going to simply remove this. We'll simply give the background color. So simply give the background color of RGBA 0,0,0,0.8 for a nice background here. Okay, so we have these things here, but it is now you guys can see here we don't want this thing styling like these things here. So we will simply give width also. Simply give the width of 100 view width. Now you guys can see here. Okay, so it is now in the center here. Fine. So we have given these things here. Okay, next we have an image. So also let's give inside of this image, inside of this login we have this image, and for this image we'll simply give the border radius of 50%. So for this it will be in a circular, in a circle. Okay, now we will give it the border radius here 50%. Next we will simply give the object fit of content, so it will take care of the aspect ratio. And now we will simply give, or you guys can see here we have login here. So I will simply give a margin bottom of 50 pixel. Okay, now save this here. Okay, so we have this button. Now I am going to simply add the styling for the button also. So we have this login, or inside of this login we have this button. Okay, so for this button we will simply style the button here. Okay, so we will simply give the padding of 10 pixel. Okay, just like this. Okay, we will simply give the color of white. Simply remove all the inherent border and the outline of the button. So we'll simply set the border and outline of the button to the none. We will simply change the cursor to the pointer. Okay, we will simply give the background color of the button to the background color of the signal. So background color will be 65116 Okay, so this is the color of the signal. Here now you guys can see here we have this button here. We will simply give the border radius of the rounded border here. For we have given the 33 pixel. We'll simply give the font size. So simply give the font size of large. Okay, now save this. It will be somehow large here. Okay, so we have these things here. Okay, so we have this login, and now next we will simply add an hover effect on the button. So inside of this we have this button, and when we will hover on the button, we'll simply change the color, text color, not column, text color to the RGB of the background color of this. So we will simply change the text color here, and now we will simply change the background color, and for this background color we will simply give the background color to the white. Okay, now save this. You will when we will okay, now you guys can see when we will hover on this, now you will see these things here. Okay, so now we are done with this here login here. Next you guys can see here when we will click on this login, then there will be a pop-up here. Okay, so how we will add these things here. So inside of this button I am going to simply add a property of on click. So on click, and when there will when user click on this login button, there will be a pop-up of the user, and it will simply ask the user from which Gmail account you guys going to log in here. So I'm going to simply create a function of a sign in here, and going to simply define that function at the top here. So where we have this const, inside of this we have this sign in. So const sign in. Okay, and next it will take event as an object, and we'll simply create an arrow function here, and here we will use this auth that we will simply import it from the Firebase. Inside of this Firebase that we have already declared the const auth here. So we have this auth, and next auth dot here, and we will simply use sign in with pop-up. Okay, so this is the correct way of doing this. So auth dot sign in with pop-up, and here we will simply pass the provider, and here in this case we have a Google provider. So we have this provider, and next if there will be any error, so then we will simply catch that error. So simply catch that error. So we have this error, and next we will simply alert the user with that respective error message. So how we will do this? So here we will simply give or simply alert the user. So simply alert the user with the error dot message. Okay, so this is the correct way of doing this. Got it? So we have these things here. Save this. Okay, when I will click on this login, then you guys will see there will be a pop-up. So here I have clicked on this login here. Okay, now pop-up is not shown. Let me check if there will be an error or something like that. So I'm going to simply open the inspect here, go to the console, and I think inside of this console, okay, there is a thing, okay, there is a warning something. Okay, I'm going to simply refresh this. First of all, I'm going to simply refresh this, and next then we will click on this login. Okay, you guys can see there is a pop-up, but it will it says the localhost error with the configuration not found. Okay, so this is because if you go back to the Firebase, here you guys can see here we have not enabled the authentication here, so that's why the error is shown. So here you guys can see we have this authentication. Click on this authentication option here from the sidebar, and here inside of this authentication you guys have to simply enable the option for the login Google authentication here, and then you guys are able to add that functionality here. So my bad, we have not do this earlier, or when we have copied the config here. So simply click on this get started. Okay, so click on this get started, and here you guys will get a bunch of options, sign in options. Here we have this email, password, name, Google, and we have Yahoo, GitHub. We have a lot of options here, and we have a lot of providers here. So in this we are going to use the Google auth provider, so that's why click on this, simply click on this enable, and here we have, you guys have to simply add the support email here, and now click on the share button. Okay, so now it will simply enable the Google authentication inside of your build, so that you guys can simply use the Google authentication. Now you guys can say Google is enabled. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to simply enable the Firestore, Cloud Firestore feature also for here. So here this Cloud Firestore here, and here you guys have to simply create an space or cloud space where you guys can simply push your message or simply fetch your message, okay, in real time. So we have this Cloud Firestore. Click on this create database, and now click on this test mode. Here it will allow from any origin to simply read or write to your application in the test mode here. So it will simply provisioning the Cloud Firestore features, and now you guys can simply able to use the Cloud Firestore feature in real time, and I will show you a bunch of messages we will simply send in a group or to a private chat name also. Okay, now you guys can see it is setting up the security rules here. So we are done with both of things here. Now I'm going to simply minimize this one more time here. Okay, so go back here. Now click on this login. Okay, refresh this. Now click on this login. Okay, so now we will it will ask, okay, you guys can see here it is ask you from which email account or the Gmail account you guys will going to simply log in this application. So I'm going to simply click on option from there. Okay, so this is the way of doing this. Okay, so now we guys have to simply authenticate the user or simply console out the information of the respective user. So how we will do this? So this is a very simple step. You guys have to simply go back to your app.js, and here you guys we will add that features here inside here. So here we will authenticate the user. So here for this we will simply use the hook, which is a very important hook. The name of this is useEffect. Hit the enter button, and now we'll simply create a hook, useEffect hook here, and here inside of this, if here we will add these things here. So we have this auth. Simply import the auth from the Firebase. So auth on auth state change means if there will be a user or then there will be a user change, or we have the different user. Okay, so this will be this will render that way. So auth dot on auth state changed, and here we will simply pass the user information, or simply render out the bunch of things from here. So if auth dot on auth or dot on auth state change, and here we will simply create an object of auth user, and we'll simply create an arrow function here. Okay, just like this. Okay, so when we have this auth user, means when we have this user, okay, so then we'll simply dispatch a bunch of information here. So we'll simply dispatch. Okay, so if there will be an auth user, then we will simply dispatch this thing. So how we will do this? So you guys have to simply create an object with the name of dispatch. Okay, so dispatch pat, okay, dispatch, and here we will simply give the use dispatch, and we'll simply import it from the react redux. Okay, so here we will simply dispatch the login function. So dispatch login. Okay, so this is the things here. Okay, so we have this login here. So we will simply, okay, so inside of this login we will console out the user first of all. So I'm going to simply add the dependencies here first of all. So I'm going to simply add the dependency dispatch, because it will simply change each and every time when there will be a change in a user. So I'm going to simply pass the dependencies of dispatch here. Okay, so this is simply import the login from the user slice. Okay, so if there will be a user, then dispatch the login, or if else, means when there will be a user logout or something else happen here, so we'll simply dispatch the logout state. So dispatch, and it will simply pass a logout function, and we'll simply import the logout from the user slice here first of all. So hit the enter button. Okay, so here we have this login, and we have this logout function here. Okay, so here we will simply dispatch a bunch of information. So I'm going to simply console out the information after the login. So I'm going to simply use the console.log, and we will simply pass auth user, just like this. Now save this. Okay, I'm going to simply show you these things in the console here. So I'm going to simply click on this login. Okay, so here we are back to this. We are seeing these things because we have authenticates the user, and the sidebar and the chat option is showing here. So I'm going to we are going to simply log out from this. So how we will do this? So I'm going to simply add the logout functionality first of all, then we will show you or the bunch of information. Okay, so I'm going to simply click on the inspect first of all. So let me see the information if of the user. So I'm going to simply click on this console. Now inside of this console, I'm going to simply make it bigger, so you guys can simply see this clearly. So we have this object of a user here, and now you will see a bunch of information of the user. So this is the email that we have login in this account. This is the display name, this is the email. Okay, this is you guys can see here there will be a unique ID, a UID also. You guys can see here this is the photo URL here, the photo profile photo of your Gmail here. Okay, this is the if you have provided the phone number, then you will see the phone number there. We have this refresh token here. Okay, we have this unique ID here. Okay, so this is the bunch of things we have consoled out here. So I'm going to simply minimize it one more time, and now inside of this login we will simply dispatch a bunch of information. So first thing that we will dispatch this UID, which is a unique ID. So we will simply dispatch the UID using auth dot. Now you will see we have this UID here. Okay, next we will simply dispatch the photo of the user. So auth user dot photo URL. for the photo here. Okay, next we have this display name, so display name. Okay, for the display name we have this auth user dot display name. Okay, so this is for the display name here. Okay, next we have this display name, and next we will use the email of the user. So simply for the email we'll simply pass auth user dot email. Got it? So this is the this is the fourth thing that we are going to simply dispatch of the user here. Okay, and now we will use all these four things inside our build. So I'm going to simply show you how you guys will simply see all these things here inside of this build. I'm going to simply save this, and now go back to your sidebar.js, and next inside of this sidebar.js, and going to simply create an object for the user. So I'm going to simply create an object. So here we have this const user. We will use the useSelector, and we will import it from the React Redux, and here we will simply pass a select user just like this. Okay, now hit the enter button. Okay, so first of all import it from the user slice here. Okay, so we have this useSelector here, and now we will simply use we have this user here, and now inside of this avatar we will simply give a source. So for this source we have we will simply pass here user dot photo, and now save this. You will see the image here, the profile image here will be updated. Okay, so you guys can see here the image of the user is updated here. Okay, so now here we are going to simply add on click functionality here. So for this, when we will click on this, the profile image here, the user will be log out from there. So how we will do this? So we are going to simply add on click properties here. So where on click here, we will simply call an empty arrow function here, and we will simply use auth dot sign out just like this. So here simply import the auth from the Firebase. Now save this. Okay, so when I will click on this avatar here, we will be back to our login page. Okay, so here you guys can see here when we will click on this, we are back to the login page because the user state is updated back to the null. So that's why we are back to the login. I'm going to simply click on the login, and now I will simply login from another account, and will show you the image of the user will be updated in that manner. Okay, so I'm going to simply show you this using my first. Now you guys can see here the profile image is updated here. Okay, so this is the correct way of doing this, and now we have set the user state here. Okay, so we have set the user state here. Now it's time to set the chat name here. Okay, so when we will click on this, the name and the message will be dispatched here for the respective user. Okay, so if you will see the deployed version here, and here inside of this deployed version, okay, I'm going to simply click on this login for the deployed version. You guys will see we have created a user state. Next we will create a chat state for storing the chat information for the messages and the chat name and the last message. Okay, so for all these things we will use or we'll simply create another slice, chat slice here. Okay, so I'm going to simply click on this. Okay, here you guys can see here when we click on this, you guys can see here the name, the message, and the profile image is dispatched from there to the chat component, from this sidebar component to the chat component. Okay, so if I will click on this, you will see it is updated on when we click on these things here. Okay, so for these things to be happen, first of all we will add the functionality of creating the chat name here. Okay, so for this, how we will do this? So when we will click on this add icon, then we have an option. Okay, so when I will click on this, you will see there will be a pop-up, a react model pop-up here. Okay, so here inside of this React model pop-up, you guys can see you guys have to simply add a chat name here and profile image for that respective chat. So here we will use a React model pop-up. So you guys have to simply import the import this. So if you go to the package.json, here we have already installed the dependencies for the React model here. So you guys have to simply install the React model dependencies using npm install React model. And now if you install the React model inside of your build, then you are good to go. Okay, so inside of this sidebar.js, and now we will simply create a model here, and the model will have all the model will simply ask the chat name and the profile image of the for the respective user. Okay, so now our next motive is to add that functionality here. So here I'm going to simply add. Okay, so we have this add icon, so we have this sidebar chat. So okay, we have this add. Now we will simply change the cursor to the pointer pointer. Pointer. Okay, now save this. Okay, if you hover on this, you will see the cursor will change to the pointer here. Fine. So next we will when we will click on this, there will be a model pop-up here. So how we will create the model pop-up? It is a very easy way of doing things. So first of all, you guys have to simply import the model from the React model. So simply import the import model from React model. Got it? So this is the way of doing this. So import the model from the React model. Okay, so here we have these things. So here after this add, we will simply create an element for the model, and we'll simply add the model here. Okay, so here after this add, we will create a model just like this. So we have this model, close this model. Okay, so we have this model here. Okay, so for this model we will simply create an state for the model to be open or closed. So that's for this thing I will simply create an state for this. So here we'll simply create an state open mod. Simply we will simply set the model or set the model. So we have this model and set model. Okay, so initially a model will be closed. So that for this we will simply initially pass a boolean of false here inside of this useState. Okay, so initially it will be false, means model will be closed. Model will be closed initially. So inside of this model here, okay, so for this model it has a bunch of properties inside of this model here. So first of all, the first properties that we have to set is the is open. So is open. So here for this model, so is open, we will simply pass it false. Okay, so is open is the property when we will run when the application will load, it will automatically opens it. So we don't want this thing want this model to be open. We will simply open the model on condition. So that's why we will simply pass here the model, because initially the model have the state false. So that's why we will simply pass the pass this state model here. Fine. Next we have this on request close. So if on request close, we will simply we have to simply close the model. So how we will close this model? So we will simply create an empty arrow function here, and we will simply set the model to the falc false. Okay, just like this. Fine. So on request close we have this thing, and okay, I'm going to simply add this letter here. We will add the styling on everything letter here. We will simply create a div, or simply create a div with the class name model info. Simply close this div. Okay, so here we will simply add an h1 tag. Okay, just like this. Okay, grab this, put it inside. Okay, so we have this h1 tag, and for this h1 tag we will simply give this is model, this is model here. Okay, next we have a button to close this model. So we have this button, so simply click close this button here. So for this button we have this in the name close. Okay, and we'll simply add a functionality of on click. So when we will click on this close button, we will simply close this model. So simply set the model back to the false. Okay, just like this. And here for this add, here we will simply add a functionality or simply add the properties of on click property. So here for this on click, we'll simply set the model to back to the true. So that's why it will simply open the model here. So set model, and we'll simply pass here true. Okay, now when I will save this, okay, so we have saved this. Okay, let it compile first of all. I think it is compiling here. So okay, it is compiling. Okay, so it is compiled successfully. Okay, so when I will click on this, then you will see there will be a model. Okay, when I click on this, you will see there is a model pop up here. Click on this, the model is closed. Click on this, model is closed. So this is the way right way of doing this. So but we don't want this exact these things here. Okay, if you go to the deployed version, and when you click on this, you will see very nice model pop up here. So now it is all up to the styling here. Okay, so we have this model here. So for this we will simply add a bunch of styling for the model here. So I'm going to simply show you is open on request close here. Okay, next we have to add the property of styling here. So for this style, we will simply give the width of 500. Okay, height of 550. Okay, put a comma at the top. Okay, next we will simply put the G index to the 1000. It will always on the top. So for this we have given the G index to the 1000. Okay, we'll simply give the background color, background color to RG, or simply give the background to RGB A of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.8. Okay, so this is the background. Simply okay, let me save this first of all. Now see what happened here. Okay, but we want this model to be central in the center. So how we will add these things here. Okay, so I'm going to simply, okay, I think it is compiling. Okay, it is compiled. Close this, open, close. Okay, so we have given the width and the height here. Refresh this. I think refresh this. Okay, click on this. Okay, styling is not here. So okay, we got this because for this styling, you guys can see we have if you go back to, if you see the documentation of the React model, we have two things. We have an overlay and we have the content. So we have not specifying the styling on the overlay or on the content. So that's why the required styling is not showing here. So here we will simply put a overlay here. So it will simply style the overlay here. Okay, so we have this overlay here. So grab these things and put it inside this overlay, and now save this. You will see this styling will be applied on the overlay here. Okay, so this is the exact way of doing this, or the things that we are wanting these things here. Okay, so now you guys can say it is in the left section, or simply touches the top of the part here. So we'll simply give the top of 50. We'll simply centrally align this. So we'll simply pass a top of 50%. We'll simply align it centrally, and we'll simply give the left of 50%. Okay, just like this. Okay, so we have this top of 50%, left of 50%, and we will save this. So let me save this first of all. Now it will be pushed to there. Okay, next we will simply give the margin left, or the margin top. So margin top of minus of 225 pixel. Okay, and now give the margin left of 250 pixel. Now save this. Okay, so now it will be okay. So you guys can say it is now in the center here. Okay, so this it is now in the center here. Fine. So this is the model here. Now we have to simply add the bunch of things for the model. Now you guys can say we have a chat name, we have the profile image here for the model here. Okay, so we have two input field inside of this model, so we will simply add all the rest of the things inside of this model. So we have this model info here, and now inside of this model info we have h1 tag for this is the model here. So I'm going to simply remove this and we'll simply add any input field here. So we have this input field. So instead of this, let me add this h3 tag instead of this, and we will, instead of this is model, we simply put here add new chat name. Okay, just like this here. Okay, next we have an input field. So we have this input field. Close this input field. Okay, so inside of this input field we'll simply give a field here required. Okay, so it will be a required. Okay, next we'll simply give the value. So I will simply add the value later when we will set the state for the input here. We'll simply give the class name. So simply give the class name to the name input. Okay, so we'll simply give the class name of the name input, and we'll simply give the type of text, and we'll simply give the placeholder to the enter new chat name. Okay, I think I'm going to simply use input of the material UI input. So that's why I'm going to simply import the material UI input here, and we'll simply remove this and add a /dia. Now save this. It will use input from the material UI. Okay, so this is the nice input field here. Okay, so next we have a chat name here. Okay, next we have this profile image also. For this you guys have to simply add a URL for the profile image. So I'm going to simply grab this and paste, or simply replicate this here. So paste it down here, and here inside of this instead of this chat name, we'll simply ask the user to add the profile image. So add profile image URL. So profile image URL here. Okay, for this input field we have this name input. So next I will simply give the simply change the placeholder here. So for this placeholder we'll simply give the chat image. So enter chat image URL, just like this. Okay, so we have this name input and we have this profile input, just like this. Now we will save this. Okay, next we have a add icon here. So you guys can see here we have an add icon here. So I will simply add the add icon. Simply import the add icon from the material UI icons here. So next we have this input, and next we have this. I'm going to simply create another div with the class name of model add. Close this div. Okay, so here inside of this we have this I'm going to simply wrap it inside of this icon button. Simply close this icon button, and inside of this icon button we will simply add a import, or simply import the add icon here. So we have this add icon from the material UI code. hit the enter button, it is automatically imported from the material UI code icon button here. And here now save this, you will see there will be a add icon here with the material UI icons here. Now you guys can see here we have a very nice ripple effect here on the icon here, add icon here. We will simply add an inline styling for the this, so we will simply add an inline styling for the add icon here. We'll simply give the font size to the extra large. Okay, we will simply give the color or simply change the color to the white. Okay, now save this. Okay, so you will see we have a white color here, so it is not showing here, but there is an icon button there. Okay, so next we have this button and we have these things here. So we are done with this. We are done with these things here. Okay, now I'm going to simply save this, and now we will simply add this styling inside of this sidebar.css. So grab the sidebar.css to style this. So we have to simply style these things exactly there. So we have add icon here, so I'm going to simply you guys can simply add a styling by yourself. I'm going to simply skip that part here. For the styling, I'm going to simply paste the code or simply paste the CSS here for the styling. You guys can simply style it in your way. Okay, so I'm going to simply paste the code for the styling for the bunch of things here. Okay, got it. So we have save this. We have added the styling for this model icon here. So this is the exact looking styling of this. Okay, so now I'm going to simply set or create the state for this input here. So here we'll simply create a pair of state here. So const input. For the first we have this chat input. So for this we will simply give a chat input, set chat input. Okay, so initially useState, initially it will be null, so here we will simply give a null here. Okay, next we will create a image input. So image input, set image input useState. It will be useState, it will be not null if the user has not set or simply provide the image of the user, then it will automatically add the image of the or simply add the image of the or simply icon of the signal. Okay, so I'm going to simply grab the URL here and simply paste it down inside of this. So I will simply paste it down here. Okay, so this is the thing here. Okay, next, fine. So we have these things here. I'm going to simply go back to your deployed version here. Fine. If I save this, you will see it will be set with the respective URL of there. Okay. Next, I'm going to simply set these things here. So how we will do this? So first of all, we have this these things here. Okay, I'm going to cancel this first of all. Okay, so inside of this we have two input field. Okay, so for this we have this input field here, so I will simply give the value. So for this value we have chat input here, so chat input, and next we have an on change. So for this on change we will simply create an arrow function for the on change here, set chat input, and here we will simply e dot target dot value. Okay, next similarly grab this and simply paste it for the another input field here, and instead of this chat input we have this image input. So we have this image input, and here for this set image input. Okay, now save this. You will see it will automatically updated with the URL of the URL that we have passed here. Okay, click on this. Now you will see it is automatically updated with the URL that we have passed here. Okay, so now you guys can simply add a chat name here, but now you guys but we will add a chat name directly to the Firebase also. Okay, so how we will do this? So for this you guys have to simply add a functionality, or simply add a property of on click on the icon for the plus icon here. So here inside of this model, you guys can say we have this add here. So here we will simply add on click functionality. So here when we will click on this on click, we will simply push the name and the image directly to the database and the user who added this information also. So we have this on click functionality here. Okay, so where we'll simply create a function handle chat. So this is the function that we are going to define at the top. Okay, so we'll simply create a function of the handle chat on the top. So I'm going to simply create there. Okay, so after this we have a function with the name const handle chat. Okay, it will be take event as an object. Let's create this arrow function here. Okay, so we have this handle chat here. Okay, so if we have a name input, means if we have a chat input, if you guys can see here, we have this, if we have this chat input, okay, then this thing will be render. Okay, so if there we have this chat input, then we will simply create a collection inside the database. So first of all, import the DB from the Firebase. Now we are going to push the chat name to the Firebase. So how we will do this? So simply you guys have to simply import the DB from the Firebase, and now instead of this now I'm going to simply create a collection with the name of chat. So db.collection. So here I will simply give the name of the collection with the chats. Okay, and now we will simply use a add functionality here. So we'll simply add a bunch of things here. We'll simply add a chat name. So for this chat name we have a chat input. Okay, so for this chat name we have this chat input, and now we have a chat image also. So we have this chat image also. So chat image. Okay, for this chat image we have this image input. Okay, so we have this image input, and next we will simply also add a timestamp also when the chat is created, or simply the new chat is added here. So we have this timestamp here, and now we will use a server timestamp here. So how we'll do this? So first of all, you guys have to simply import the Firebase, the actual Firebase from the Firebase to use this feature. So here for this timestamp we have this Firebase dot Firestore. Okay, so Firebase dot Firestore dot filled value dot server timestamp, and this is the correct way of adding the timestamp to the database here. Okay, so now save this, and I'm going to simply show you the exact way of doing this. So I'm going to simply grab this and put this tab here, and now you guys will see it will be in a real time. And now when I will add the information here, you guys will see it will automatically updated here also in the real time. So I'm going to simply close this and open this here, and now I'm going to simply add a chat name here. So I'm going to simply add a chat name code with a key. Okay, so initially I'm going to simply I'm not going to alter or simply change the URL of there. You will see it is a default here. I'm going to simply click on this plus icon. You will see this chat name or the image or URL is pushed to the database inside of the Cloud Firestore in the right section of your screen. I'm going to simply click on this. So we have click on this, and here you will see when I refresh this, you will see there will be a the chat name and the image will be pushed, or image URL pushed to the database here. Okay, one more thing here, if we click on this, we have to simply close this model, and we will have to simply set both of things back to the null. So we have not done these things here. So I will simply do it do it now. First of all, I will simply show you the chat name and each and everything that is pushed on the database here. So if you see, okay, now you guys can see here we have a collection with the name of chats, and we have a unique ID generated here. We have the chat image, we have this chat name, and we have this timestamp is already rendering on the screen. So this is the correct way of doing this. And now you guys can see here we have already added a chat here. So I'm going to simply fix the bug, one more bug here first of all, and then we will add another chat name here inside there. So here after this, after all these things will done there, we'll simply simply set the chat input back to the null, and simply set chat we'll simply set the image input back to the URL here of this. So simply grab this and put it inside there, simply paste it down here. Okay, and next we'll simply close this model. So simply set the model false. Okay, so this is the thing that we have left here. Okay, so grab this, put it here, and now I'm going to simply cancel this, and now I will simply click on, okay, close this. Okay, so click on this. Okay, you guys can see I'm going to simply refresh this first of all. Okay, I think it is compiling. Okay, let me see. Okay, it has compiled successfully. Okay, refresh this as first of all. Refresh this. Okay, so click on this. I'm going to simply add a chat name with the name of WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group. Okay, or simply grab the URL of the WhatsApp icon here. So I'm going to simply grab this image address. Now we'll simply update it. So simply paste it down here. Okay, so when I click on this, you will see the model will be closed, and everything will be and then you will see the model will be closed, and where we have another unique ID generated in a real time without refreshing. You will see the unique ID will be generated with the message and the chat URL also. So when I click on this, you will see the chat image is React model is closed here, and now you can see we have a unique ID generated here. So and when I click on this, you will see we have this WhatsApp group, and we have this timestamp, and we have this chat image here. Okay, so this is the exact thing that we are going to implement, or simply implement here. Okay, I'm going to simply show you, or simply click on this, and I'm going to simply add another chat name with the name of Telegram here. And now we'll simply grab the URL of the Telegram here, icon of the Telegram icon here, update this and click on this. You will see there will be another unique ID generated here. It is all in a real time. You guys can see here this all thing is in a real time. Okay, so this is the things, and now it's time to simply render this thing here inside of this sidebar chats here. So how we will do this? So you guys have to simply render these things here. So how we will do this? So first of all, for rendering these things here, so I'm going to simply use a useState functionality here. So useState will simply fetch the information from the Firebase, and we will simply render it down there. Okay, so we have this useEffect here. So I'm going to simply use this useEffect, and inside of this useEffect we'll simply create an arrow function here. Okay, just like this. Okay, so inside of this useEffect we have this DB for the database, and next inside of this DB we have this collection, or inside of this collection we have a collection with the name of chats, and here we will simply render out the name of the chats. We will simply order it by the timestamp, because we will simply order it by the newly created chat name will always on the top. Okay, so we'll simply order it by timestamp. So stmp timestamp, and in a descending order. So for this we will simply add a dish desk. Okay, so we have this use effect. So first of all, import the use effect. First of all, import the use effect from the React. Okay, so we have this use effect here. Okay, I think it is not yet imported from the React. Hit the enter button. Okay, so we have this db dot collection dot chat, and now we have this order by here. Now we will simply add on snapshot functionality. So on a snapshot, we'll simply create an object for the snapshot here. Okay, so for this snapshot, we will simply set the chat name. So how we will do this? So for this, we are going to simply create another state, or we'll simply create another state for these things. So we'll simply create another state for the chat set. So we have this chat, and we'll simply set the chats here. So we have these chats. Okay, and we'll simply set the chats. So I'm going to simply make it plural here. Okay, so we have these chats and set chats. We'll simply use state, and we initially it will have an empty array. Okay, so on a snapshot, we will simply set the chats here. So simply set the chats. Okay, and here we will set the chat, and inside of this we will simply pass this snapshot functionality. So a snapshot dot docs dot map, and now we will use a map function here. And now we have this doc make an object here, and we will simply create an arrow function here. And inside of this arrow function, we have this id. Okay, which is a doc.id, just like this. And now next we will simply render the chat name here. So simply doc dot data. Okay, you guys can simply give any name as you want. I will simply give a chat name for this doc data. So basically this is the unique id that will be fetched by this doc.id, and inside of that respective id we have this information. So it will simply pass inside of this chat name object by through this doc.data function here. Okay, so we are done with these things here. Okay, next it will not depend on any dependency, so that's why we have passing in an empty array here. Okay, next we will simply render this thing. So how we will render this? So if you go back to after this model, okay, next we have this sidebar chats a bunch of times here. So I will simply remove these two sidebar chats, and will simply render it a single time. So how we will do this? So we have this chats, and now chats.map, and now we will use map function here. So for this we will simply map each and every chat name that is fetched from the database here. So we are using this map function here, or inside of this map we have two things. We have this id, and now we have this chat name. We have which have a bunch of information. Okay, so I will simply create an arrow function here, and here we will simply render this sidebar chat here, and we'll simply pass the properties inside of this. So here we will simply pass the properties. So how we'll do this? So simply we will have this a very important property, that is a key. We will have this id. So we will have this id. Next we have this name. So for this name, if you guys go and see here, we have this name, and name is the chat name here. So for this name we have this chat name dot chat name. Okay, just like this. And next we have this chat image. So we have this chat image. Fine. So we have this chat image. So for this chat image we have this chat name dot chat image. Got it? Fine. We are done with this. We will simply render these things, or we'll simply pass it as an property or simply props inside of this sidebar chat here. Now I will simply save this. Go back to your sidebar chats. So we have this sidebar chats, sidebar chat dot js. So we have this name and the chat image here. So here inside of this sidebar chats we will simply destructure it using ESX way. So we have this ID, we have a name, and now we have this chat images like this. And instead of inside of this avatar, we will simply give a source for this, and so inside of this source we will simply pass here chat image. Okay, instead of inside of this timestamp we will add this thing later. We will simply update the chat name also. So update the chat name with the name, now save this, go back to your deployed version. You will see these things will updated here. So in this specific part, you guys can see here we have covered the user authentication part, we have created the state using the Redux, we have pushed the chat name or chat or new chat to the database, and we have simply fetch the chat name or simply fetch the information from the database in the real time. Now it's time to add a chat name, and instantly when we add the chat name, you will see new chat will be shown or simply render on the screen. In the meantime also, I'm going to simply click on this and we will simply add a chat name with a boom boom group, boom boom group, so GROUP group, and I will simply grab URL of the boom boom group from their chat image here. So import, simply click on this, update this, paste it down here, click on this, you will see we have this boom boom group here. Okay, so this is the way of creating or simply fetching these things from the Firebase. So we have covered the both of all these things here in a very simple way. If you guys have still a doubt in this specific part, then you guys will make sure to ask your doubt or simply queries inside of this comment section, or you guys can simply join our Discord where we give the notification for our next build. If you guys have any if you guys want a personal suggestion from me, so you guys can simply message me on Instagram, or simply you guys can simply DM me, okay, on the Instagram. All the links of the Instagram and the Telegram channel is in the description. Okay, if you guys like this video, hit the like button, and if you guys have not subscribed this YouTube channel yet, make sure to subscribe this YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss any updates, because we are going to add much more quality contents to this channel. So it will be very helpful for you all guys to learn all these concepts in a very lucid way. Okay, so I hope you like this tutorial. Okay, till then keep coding or keep building projects. Okay, bye bye.